Ryan Blackwood kissed Vanessa Sterling beneath the silver moon arch, and the entire feast erupted in applause. Then the great doors opened. Claire Morgan stood in the entrance with one hand resting over the unmistakable curve of her stomach. The applause died so quickly that the soft clink of a wineglass against a table sounded loud enough to cross the entire hall. Ryan froze. Vanessa's smile vanished half a second too late. Claire did not move. For one long heartbeat, she simply looked at the man the moon had chosen as her mate and the woman whose face was still only inches from his. For months, Claire had spent 4 months carrying the secret beneath loose gowns and carefully planned shawls, waiting for the right moment to tell him. Tonight was supposed to be that moment. The moon feast was one of Blackwood Kingdom's most sacred celebrations, and Claire had imagined finding Ryan after the ceremonial blessing, placing his hand over her stomach, and watching the guarded Alpha King become a father before her eyes. Instead, she had walked in carrying a small silver box meant to announce their child and found his mouth on another woman's. Ryan stepped away from Vanessa. Claire. Hundreds of faces turned toward her. Noble alphas, betas, visiting pack leaders, court families who had spent months whispering that Vanessa had become more than a political companion. Claire felt every stare, but her hand remained steady over her stomach. "Do not stop on my account." Her voice was quiet, carried anyway. Ryan came down the 3 steps beneath the arch. "This is not what it looks like." Claire almost smiled at the uselessness of the sentence. "I watched it happen." Vanessa recovered first. She straightened the white silk at her shoulder. "It was part of the ceremonial blessing." Claire looked at her. "Does the ceremony usually require that?" No one answered. Ryan's jaw tightened. Vanessa stepped closer than expected. "And you had no time to step back?" "Claire." The warning in his voice was instinctive, the tone of a king trying to control a difficult room. She saw him realize it immediately. His expression softened. "Please." Claire lowered her gaze to the silver box in her hand. Inside rested a moonstone certificate from Dr. Evelyn Reed confirming the pregnancy, along with the tiny printed image Claire had stared at every night for the past week. She had rehearsed what she would say. She had imagined Ryan laughing, perhaps even losing that famous composure for once. Now the box felt heavy enough to drag her hand toward the floor. Ryan followed her gaze. "What is that?" Claire looked back at him. "What I came here to give you." He took another step closer, and that was when he truly saw her. His eyes dropped to her stomach. The color left his face. The moon bond between them surged so suddenly that Claire had to steady her breathing. Ryan stopped. "Claire." This time her name sounded different. "Are you?" He could not finish. Vanessa looked from Claire to Ryan, then down at Claire's stomach. Around them, the hall remained completely silent. Claire lifted her chin. "Yes." Ryan stared at her. "How long?" "For months." Shock moved across his face, followed by something raw enough that Claire nearly looked away. "Why did you not tell me?" That hurt more than she expected. She opened the silver box, removed the folded healer certificate, and held it out. "I was going to tell you tonight." Ryan looked at the document without taking it. Claire closed the box again. "I thought the moon feast would be a good memory for us." Her eyes shifted briefly toward Vanessa. "I was wrong." Ryan stepped forward. "Claire, wait." She moved back before he could reach her. "Not here. Then somewhere private." "You had privacy with her." Vanessa's face tightened. Ryan ignored her completely now. "Please let me explain." Claire looked around at the hundreds of people pretending not to listen. "You can explain tomorrow." She turned toward the doors. Ryan followed one step. "Claire." She stopped but did not face him. "Tonight I found out exactly what I was walking into." Her hand returned protectively to her stomach. "Tomorrow you can find out what you almost lost before you even knew you had it." Then Claire walked out of the moon feast, leaving the Alpha King standing beneath the same arch where, only moments earlier, the entire court had applauded him. Ryan found Claire in the eastern corridor before she reached the private stairs. She had stopped beneath a tall window overlooking the palace gardens, One hand braced against the stone ledge while the other held the silver box against her chest. The music from the moon feast had become distant behind the closed doors, but the humiliation still followed her like an echo. Claire. She did not turn. You said tomorrow. Ryan's footsteps slowed. I cannot wait until tomorrow. I had to. That made him stop. Claire looked over her shoulder. For 4 months. Ryan's face tightened. I did not know. I know. She faced him fully now. That is the problem. He came closer, careful this time, as though one wrong movement might send her farther away. How long have you known? Since the 9th week. Ryan calculated quickly. Nearly 2 months. Claire nodded. I confirmed it with Dr. Evelyn Reed. His eyes dropped to the silver box again. And you were going to tell me tonight. Yes. She opened it. Inside lay the healer's certificate and the small moonstone image from her examination. Ryan stared at it. The powerful Alpha King who could negotiate with hostile packs without blinking suddenly seemed unable to breathe. That is our child? Claire looked down at the image. Yes. Ryan reached toward it, then stopped before touching anything. Why did you not tell me earlier? Claire looked back at him. I tried. He frowned. When? 3 times. Ryan's expression changed. What do you mean? I requested private audiences 3 times over the last 6 weeks. I never received those requests. The first was moved because of a sterling trade meeting. The second was cancelled for a dinner with the Eastern nobles. The third was rescheduled because Vanessa needed you at a council reception. Ryan stared at her. Who told you that? Your office. Claire, if I had known why you were asking. I did not think I needed to put my pregnancy into a scheduling request just to get 10 minutes alone with my mate. The words were quiet, but they cut through every explanation he might have offered. Ryan looked away briefly. I should have made time. Yes. Claire closed the silver box. You should have. He stepped closer. The kiss was not planned. She gave him a tired look. That does not make it harmless. It was part of the ceremonial blessing. No. The blessing was supposed to end with her hand over yours. Ryan went still. Claire continued. I know the tradition. She changed the gesture. And you let the moment continue. For a second. Claire's eyes hardened. A second is still a choice when you know where your mouth is. Ryan exhaled slowly. You are right. She seemed surprised by the lack of defense. I should have stopped it immediately. He looked back toward the feast doors. And I should have made sure the court never had reason to think she could stand in your place. Claire's expression softened, but only with sadness. You are saying that because you saw my stomach. No, are you sure? Ryan looked at her sharply. Claire held his gaze. If I had walked into that hall and I was not pregnant, would this feel as urgent to you? He opened his mouth. Nothing came. Claire nodded once. That is what frightens me. Ryan's voice lowered. Claire, I want you. As your mate. Yes. Or as the mother of your heir? The silence between them became heavier than the feast behind the doors. Ryan looked at the silver box, then at her. Both. Claire shook her head. That is not the answer I needed. He reached toward her, then stopped himself. What do you need? Claire looked down the corridor toward the Luna wing. Space. From me. From this palace. Ryan's expression tightened. Where will you go? Moonridge Sanctuary. Dr. Reed already suggested I rest there for a few weeks. Claire, that is 30 miles from the capital. I know. You are carrying the royal heir. She looked at him. I am carrying our child. Not a political asset. Ryan flinched. Claire held the silver box out. Take this. He accepted it carefully. For the first time that night, his hands trembled. Claire watched him look down at the image of the child he had not known existed. You were supposed to get that from me with joy, she said softly. I know. Instead. Now it is proof of everything we missed. Ryan closed his fingers around the box. Let me fix this. Claire turned toward the stairs. Start by understanding that you cannot fix it tonight. By 9 the next morning, The empty Luna chair had become the loudest object in Blackwood Council. Claire's place stood untouched beside Ryan, silver-backed and perfectly aligned with the long council table, while every alpha in the room pretended not to look at it. Ryan noticed anyway. He noticed the folded napkin that had never been moved, the untouched water glass, the small carved moon on the armrest where Claire usually rested her hand when debates ran too long. Vanessa sat 3 seats away among the Sterling delegation, exactly where protocol placed her. For once, even she seemed to understand that moving closer would only make the silence worse. Daniel Carter entered with a stack of reports and took his position beside Ryan. Moonridge confirmed Dr. Reed arrived before sunrise. Ryan's head turned. Claire is there. She left the palace at 6:30 with the healer and 2 attendants. Ryan looked at the empty chair again. He had known she intended to leave. Knowing had not prepared him for seeing the space she left behind. Alpha Marcus Hale from the Northern Territory cleared his throat. Your Majesty, before we begin trade matters, the Council needs clarity. Ryan looked at him. About what? Marcus glanced toward Claire's chair. About the Luna. The room tightened. Vanessa shifted slightly. Ryan kept his voice even. Claire remains my mate and Luna. Another alpha leaned forward. Then why is she at Moonridge while Lady Sterling attended the moon feast beside you? No one softened the question. Ryan could have ended the discussion with rank. He had done that before. Instead he said, because I failed to protect a boundary that should have been obvious. Vanessa's eyes snapped toward him. Ryan. He did not look at her. Marcus continued. There is also the matter of the heir. Ryan felt every person in the room become more attentive. Claire's pregnancy does not belong to this council. Her medical privacy does not, Marcus replied. Succession stability does. Ryan's jaw tightened. Daniel stepped in carefully. The pregnancy is healthy according to Dr. Reed's report. There is no immediate medical concern. Vanessa folded her hands. Then perhaps everyone should stop treating last night like a constitutional crisis. The room turned toward her. She smiled faintly. Claire was upset, understandably, but she chose to leave before hearing any explanation. Ryan looked at her for the first time. She heard enough. Vanessa's expression changed. You know that kiss was not planned. I know I did not stop it. Silence followed. Ryan continued before anyone could redirect blame. And I know my mate requested private access to me 3 times before last night and did not receive it. Daniel looked sharply at him. 3 times. That is what Claire told me. Vanessa's posture became very still. Daniel immediately opened his scheduling ledger. I only saw 1 request. Ryan turned. What? 1 request reached my desk. It was marked non-urgent and moved behind the Sterling trade sessions. Vanessa spoke too quickly. Because those negotiations affected half the eastern border. Daniel looked at her. Who marked it non-urgent? She did not answer. Ryan felt something cold settle behind his ribs. Find out. Daniel nodded. Alpha Marcus leaned back. So the Luna tried to reach the king privately, was delayed repeatedly, then entered a public ceremony where another woman kissed him. No accusation in his tone was necessary. The sequence itself was enough. Ryan looked at Claire's empty chair. Last night he had thought the worst thing in the hall was the moment she saw the kiss. This morning he understood something worse. She had been trying to reach him long before that moment, and everyone around his throne had become better at deciding who deserved his time than the woman carrying his child. Vanessa rose. If this council intends to turn a scheduling failure into an attack on my family, I will not sit here for it. Ryan's voice stopped her before she reached the door. Sit down. She turned slowly. Excuse me? Until Daniel finishes reviewing the records, no Sterling staff member will handle my private calendar, Luna communications, or household access. A murmur moved through the room. Vanessa stared at him. You are humiliating me because Claire left. Ryan looked at the empty chair beside him. No. I am finally noticing why she did. Moonridge Sanctuary did not look like a place where queens were hidden. It looked like a place where people were finally allowed to breathe. The main house sat between pine-covered hills 30 miles from Blackwood Palace, surrounded by small cottages, herb gardens, and walking paths wide enough for women carrying swollen feet and tired backs to move without being hurried. Claire arrived expecting silence. Instead, she found work. Dr. Evelyn Reed had barely finished checking her blood pressure and confirming the baby was developing normally when a young Omega from Cedar Hollow appeared at the clinic desk with a folded transportation notice in her hand and tears she was trying not to show. "My appointment was moved again," the woman said. "The wagon only comes from our pack twice a month." Claire looked at Evelyn. "How far is Cedar Hollow?" 22 miles. "And the next wagon?" 13 days. Claire turned back to the woman. "When is your appointment supposed to be?" "Tomorrow." Claire felt something inside her settle. She had spent months asking for 10 minutes of private access to her own mate and being told someone else mattered more. She knew exactly what it felt like to have a system quietly decide your need could wait. "Then we find another ride." By afternoon, Claire had helped Evelyn reorganize 3 transport schedules so women from neighboring packs could share vehicles instead of traveling separately. It was small, practical. No ceremony. No royal seal. Yet when one driver realized he could collect patients from 2 villages on the same route and save nearly 40 miles each week, the solution spread immediately. 2 days later, Claire was sitting at the sanctuary kitchen table with 4 pregnant Omegas, a healer, and a supply coordinator discussing why one northern clinic kept running out of prenatal vitamins. "They received the same shipment as Westfield," the coordinator explained, "but they serve twice as many families." Claire frowned. "Then equal shipments are not equal support." The room went quiet. Evelyn looked at her over the rim of her coffee cup. "Exactly." Claire spent the next hour helping them compare numbers. She had no medical training and pretended to have none. She asked questions instead. How many families? How often did the roads close? Which supplies expired fastest? What could be shared safely between clinics? By the end of the week, Moonridge had a revised delivery calendar. By the end of the second week, 3 smaller packs had asked for copies. Claire never announced any of it. She did not send reports to court. She did not use the Luna title when people asked her name. She simply said, "Claire." Word traveled anyway. Women began arriving with questions the palace had never heard. A widow from Pine Creek needed temporary housing near a healer. A young couple from Westfield could not afford repeated trips to Moonridge. A midwife from Oak Valley wanted funding for a second examination room. Claire listened. She had learned that people often revealed the solution if someone gave them enough time to finish explaining the problem. One afternoon, Evelyn found her in the garden writing transportation notes beneath a maple tree. "You realize half these women know who you are now." Claire looked up. "I assumed they would eventually." "They are calling you the Luna." Claire's hand stopped. "I did not ask them to. That is why they are." Claire looked toward the clinic porch, where 2 women were laughing while folding baby blankets. The title felt different here. At the palace, Luna had become a place someone could compete for. At Moonridge, it sounded less like rank and more like trust. "I am not ready to go back," Claire said. Evelyn sat beside her. "Then do not." Claire looked down at her stomach, where the baby shifted beneath her palm. For the first time since the moon feast, the movement did not immediately bring Ryan's face with it. It brought something else, a future she might shape without waiting for him to make room. That evening, 30 miles away, Daniel placed 5 recovered scheduling records on Ryan's desk. 2 bore Claire's name. Both had been marked delayed by sterling administrative staff. Ryan stared at the dates. Then Daniel placed 2 unopened letters beside them. "There is more," he said. Ryan did not touch the letters at first. He stared at Claire's handwriting on the envelopes and felt something cold settle in his chest. One had been dated 5 weeks before the moon feast. The other 3 weeks before. Both had been stamped received by the royal household. Neither had reached him. Daniel stood across the desk with the recovered scheduling records in one hand. The first letter was routed through Sterling administration because they had temporary authority over ceremonial access. The second was marked personal and placed behind trade correspondence. Ryan looked up. By Vanessa? Daniel shook his head. Not directly. Her aides. On whose authority? Daniel's silence answered before he spoke. Yours. Ryan leaned back slowly. Months earlier, he had signed a restructuring order so Sterling staff could coordinate Eastern negotiations, formal dinners, and private scheduling during the alliance talks. At the time, it had seemed efficient. Now Claire's unopened letters sat in front of him like proof of what efficiency had cost. Open them, Daniel said. Ryan broke the first seal. Claire's words were simple. She asked for 20 private minutes after his council meeting. She wrote that she had news she wanted to share with him before anyone else knew. No demand. No drama. Just hope. The second letter was shorter. She wrote that she had tried again through the office and understood he was busy. But the news mattered to both of them. Ryan stopped reading. Daniel looked away. She tried to tell you. I know. No, Daniel's voice was quiet. You know now. Ryan looked at him. Daniel placed the scheduling logs beside the letters. There were 3 requests. Claire told you that already. I only found 2 written notices because the third was verbal through household staff. Ryan's jaw tightened. And Sterling aides moved all of them? They deprioritized them. That is the same thing. Not exactly. Daniel held his gaze. Because Vanessa did not create the system. She used it. Ryan said nothing. Daniel continued. You made Sterling meetings untouchable. You told everyone the Eastern Alliance came first. Your staff learned what mattered by watching what you canceled and what you never canceled. Ryan looked back down at Claire's letter. So this is my fault. It is not only your fault. Daniel paused. But it cannot become only hers. The truth landed harder than accusation. Ryan remembered every time Vanessa had been waiting outside council while Claire had gone home alone. Every dinner he had extended because noble houses needed reassurance. Every moment he assumed Claire would understand because she always had before. He had confused her patience with permission. What else did you find? Ryan asked. Daniel slid another document across the desk. 3 ceremonial appearances over the last 4 months placed Vanessa beside you instead of Claire. Ryan frowned. Claire missed those events. Because the invitations sent to the Luna office listed altered times on 2 occasions. Ryan went still. Altered by whom? Sterling scheduling staff. Did Vanessa know? I cannot prove that yet. Ryan stood and moved toward the window. Moonridge lay 30 miles beyond the dark line of hills. Far enough that Claire could build days without him in them. And the kiss? Daniel asked carefully. Ryan turned. What about it? Was it planned? No. Did Vanessa initiate it? Ryan's face tightened. Yes. Daniel waited. Ryan understood what he was asking. And I should have stopped her before it happened. Yes. Ryan looked away. There it was. The part no investigation could remove. He could expose every delayed letter, every altered invitation, every Sterling aide who had crossed a line, and none of it would change what Claire had actually seen. Vanessa had leaned in. Ryan had allowed the moment to exist. She did not lock the door alone, Daniel said. Ryan looked back at him. What? Claire's access, the distance, the confusion at court. Daniel's voice remained steady. Vanessa did not lock the door alone. You gave her the key. Ryan closed his eyes for 1 second. Then he returned to the desk and gathered Claire's letters. Prepare the Moonridge security report. Daniel frowned. Are you going there? Yes. To bring her back? Ryan looked at the handwriting on the envelope. A week ago, that would have been exactly what he meant. No, he folded the letters carefully. To find out whether she would even want me there. Ryan arrived at Moonridge without a royal carriage, without guards in ceremonial black, and without a single command prepared. The choice felt unnatural. For most of his life, every door had opened because he was Alpha King. This time, he stopped at the sanctuary gate and waited until a young attendant asked his name, even though she clearly recognized him. Ryan Blackwood. She glanced toward the main house. Were you expected? The question struck harder than it should have. No, a few minutes later. Dr. Evelyn Reed appeared on the porch. Claire is in the garden. Ryan nodded. May I see her? Evelyn studied him. That depends on Claire. She disappeared inside. Ryan remained beneath the cedar awning with Claire's unopened letters folded inside his coat. When she finally came outside, she wore a soft gray sweater over a simple dress, one hand resting beneath the curve of her stomach. She looked healthy, calmer. That should have relieved him. Instead, it showed him how much peace she had found away from the palace. You came alone, Claire said. Yes. Why? Ryan held out the letters. Daniel found these. Claire recognized them immediately. Her expression closed. So now you believe me. I believed you before. Then what changed? Ryan looked down at the envelopes. I learned how easy I made it for people to keep you away from me. Claire said nothing. Sterling's staff delayed your requests. They altered invitations. They controlled more access than I understood. Claire's eyes hardened. And Vanessa? I cannot prove she personally ordered every decision. That is not what I asked. Ryan exhaled. She benefited from it. She encouraged the access. And I allowed the situation to become normal. Claire watched him carefully. That sounds closer to the truth. He nodded. Daniel said she did not lock the door alone. I gave her the key. Something flickered across Claire's face, but she did not rescue him from the admission. Ryan glanced toward the cottages behind her. Women moved between the clinic and kitchen carrying baskets, appointment folders, and folded blankets. I heard what you have been doing here. I have been helping. You reorganized transportation for 4 packs. With other people. And the supply routes. Also with other people. Ryan almost smiled. You never make anything sound like it belongs to you. Claire looked toward the clinic. Because it usually does not. He stepped closer, then stopped several feet away. Come back to Blackwood. Her attention snapped to him. Why? Because the palace can provide stronger security, better access to healers, anything you need. Claire's expression grew unreadable. For me, for you and the baby. That is not an answer. Ryan frowned. What do you mean? Claire took one slow breath. Do you want me back? Or do you want your heir where you can see him? Ryan felt the question strip away every prepared thought. Claire. No. Answer it. He looked at her stomach, then forced himself to look back at her face. I want both of you safe. That still is not the same thing. I want you home. Because I am your mate? Yes. Because I am carrying your child? Ryan hesitated. Claire closed her eyes for a moment. There it is. I am trying to answer honestly. Then answer honestly. He looked at her. I do not know how to separate the two right now. Claire's face softened with sadness. That silence is why I cannot come home. Ryan's instinct rose immediately. He wanted to argue that Blackwood was safer, that she belonged beside him, that the child belonged under royal protection. The old Ryan would have turned fear into authority. He could feel the words waiting. He let them die. Claire noticed. You are not going to order me back? No, you could try. I know. Ryan looked around Moonridge. But I think that is part of what I need to stop doing. Claire studied him for a long moment. Then what will you do? Make sure this place has protection without making it feel like a prison. Fund whatever Dr. Reed says is needed. And leave when you ask me to. Claire's eyes searched his. I am asking. The words hurt. Ryan nodded anyway. Before turning away, he placed the 2 letters on the garden table between them. I am sorry they never reached me. Claire looked at them. So am I. Ryan walked back toward the gate alone. He did not look behind him. For the first time since the moon feast, he understood that loving Claire could not begin with bringing her home. It had to begin with making himself someone she might one day choose to return to. 3 days after Ryan left Moonridge, Vanessa Sterling walked into Blackwood Council wearing white and spoke as though Claire had abandoned the kingdom. The royal heir is being kept 30 miles from the capital, she said, standing before the long table with 12 alpha representatives watching. At some point, This stops being a private disagreement and becomes a question of duty. Ryan did not answer immediately. He had returned from Moonridge with no victory, no promise, and no right to expect either. What Claire had given him instead was a question he could not escape. Did he want her, or only the child she carried? Vanessa mistook his silence for hesitation. Claire is using the pregnancy to control public sympathy. Daniel Carter looked up sharply from the folder in front of him. That is a serious claim. Vanessa turned toward him. It is an obvious one. Then it should survive evidence. Daniel opened the folder. Ryan already knew what was inside. Claire's 3 requests for private audience. The 2 letters that never reached him. The altered ceremonial invitations. The scheduling authority Ryan himself had signed over to Sterling administration. Daniel placed the first record on the table. Claire requested private time with the king 6 weeks before the moon feast. He placed down the second. Again 4 weeks before. Then the letters. 2 written notices were received by the royal household and delayed behind Sterling business. Vanessa's expression tightened. My staff prioritized matters affecting the entire kingdom. Daniel did not raise his voice. One of those letters contained news concerning the royal heir. A murmur moved around the council table. Vanessa looked at Ryan. I did not know that. Maybe not, Daniel said. But your office created the delay. Vanessa's chin lifted. Under authority granted by the king. Yes, Ryan said. The room went still. Vanessa turned toward him, clearly expecting him to use that fact in her defense. Ryan rose from his chair. She is right about one thing. Every alpha watched him. I gave Sterling administration that authority. I repeatedly protected political meetings from interruption. I allowed Vanessa closer access to my schedule than Claire had. I allowed the court to become accustomed to seeing another woman beside me. Vanessa's face lost color. Ryan. He looked directly at her. And at the moon feast, you crossed a boundary. It was one kiss. One I should have stopped before it happened. She stared at him. So this is all my fault now? No, Ryan's answer came immediately. That is exactly what it is not. He looked around the council. Vanessa manipulated access. I allowed the conditions that made it possible. No one spoke. Claire did not remove herself from Blackwood because she wanted leverage. She left because I gave her reasons not to trust the place she was supposed to call home. Vanessa folded her arms. And what happens when she decides never to return? Do you let the heir grow up outside the palace because she is angry? Ryan's expression hardened. Our child is not property of this throne. The words surprised even him. Alpha Marcus Hale leaned forward. Then what is your position, Your Majesty? Ryan looked at the empty Luna chair beside him. Claire remains free to stay at Moonridge as long as she chooses. Palace security will support the sanctuary only with her approval. No representative of this court will pressure her to return. Vanessa gave a bitter laugh. You are surrendering authority. Ryan looked at her. No. I am learning where it ends. Daniel closed the folder. Vanessa glanced around the room and realized no one was rushing to defend her. You will regret humiliating the Sterling family. Ryan's voice stayed calm. This council will review every privilege granted to Sterling administration. Until that review is complete, your household has no control over royal scheduling, Luna communications, ceremonial access, or medical correspondence. Vanessa's face hardened. And me? Ryan held her gaze. You will no longer stand beside me in any private or public capacity beyond what your family's formal diplomatic role requires. The meaning was unmistakable. Whatever personal relationship had existed between them was finished. Vanessa turned and left without another word. The doors closed behind her. Ryan did not feel relief. Daniel looked at him. You did the right thing. Ryan sat slowly. Late. Yes. Ryan appreciated the honesty. He looked once more at Claire's empty chair. Ending Vanessa's influence had been necessary. But for the first time, he understood that removing the woman who crossed the line was easier than becoming the man who had allowed the line to disappear. Ryan returned to Moonridge 1 week later carrying no decree, no royal seal, and no expectation that Claire would come home with him. He arrived in a plain black coat and left the palace carriage at the lower road, walking the final quarter-mile alone beneath the pines. By then, word had already reached the sanctuary that Vanessa Sterling had lost her private access to the king, that Sterling's staff had been removed from Luna Communications, and that Ryan had accepted responsibility before the council instead of blaming everything on one woman. Claire had heard all of it. None of it erased the moon feast. When the attendant told her Ryan was waiting near the garden, she finished reviewing a transportation chart before going outside. He stood beside the same wooden table where he had left her letters days earlier. This time, a thin leather folder rested in his hands. "You came back," Claire said. "Yes." "Why?" Ryan held out the folder. "Because I changed something, and I want you to see it before the council votes." Claire did not take it immediately. Changed what? The rules that made what happened possible. That made her look at him more carefully. She accepted the folder and opened it. The first page established an independent Luna office with its own staff, budget, and direct access to council records. The second guaranteed that medical messages from bonded mates, pregnant omegas, and royal household members could not be delayed by political offices. Another section removed informal companions from ceremonial positions traditionally reserved for the Luna unless the Luna gave written consent. Claire turned the page. "What is this?" "A maternity protection fund for smaller packs." She looked up. Ryan continued. "Moonridge showed me how far some families travel for basic care. The proposal funds transportation, temporary housing near clinics, and additional healer rotations." Claire read silently. "Who wrote this?" "Daniel drafted the legal language. Dr. Reed sent recommendations. I asked the smaller pack representatives what they actually needed." Her eyes lifted again. "You asked them?" "I am learning." The answer was simple enough that she believed it. Claire turned to the final section. A bonded mate could not be removed from court access, ceremonial standing, or household authority through unofficial political arrangements without formal review. Her fingers stopped on the page. "This would have prevented Sterling's staff from deciding whether I mattered enough to reach you." "Yes. It also would have prevented you from quietly replacing me in public." Ryan did not defend himself. "Yes." Claire closed the folder. "And Vanessa?" "Her political privileges are suspended pending final council review. Whatever personal relationship existed between us is over." Claire studied his face. "You expect that to mean something to me?" "I expect it to mean what it means. Nothing more." Ryan looked toward the clinic behind her. "I did not come here to tell you she is gone, so you should return." Claire remained silent. "I am not asking this to buy you back." Her mouth tightened slightly. "Good." She handed the folder back. "Because I am not for sale." Ryan accepted the words without flinching. "I know." Claire looked at him for a long moment. "Do you?" "I am starting to." He opened the folder again and removed a single page. "There is one more provision." He gave it to her. Claire read it twice. The Luna office would remain independently funded even if the king and Luna were living separately. Her public authority would not depend on marital harmony. Claire looked up sharply. "Why would you include this?" "Because whether you forgive me should not determine whether you can do your work." Something shifted in her expression. "Not forgiveness, not trust, but recognition." Ryan continued. "The council votes tomorrow. I wanted you to see it first in case there is something missing." Claire looked down at the document. "There is." Ryan waited. "The fund should include postpartum travel and follow-up care for rural omegas. Not just pregnancy." He nodded immediately. "I will add it. And medical requests should bypass noble offices entirely." "Agreed." Claire studied him again. "You are not going to argue?" "Not when you are right." A faint breath of amusement almost escaped her, but she stopped it. Ryan noticed anyway and wisely said nothing. The baby shifted beneath Claire's hand. Ryan's eyes moved toward the motion, then back to her face. He did not ask to touch her stomach. He did not step closer. That restraint mattered more than she wanted it to. "When is your next appointment?" he asked. "Friday. May I know how it goes?" Claire hesitated. "Dr. Reed can send you the medical summary." Ryan nodded. "Thank you." He turned toward the path. Claire watched him take several steps before speaking. "Ryan." He stopped. "Yes." She held up the reform draft. "Leave this with me." His expression softened. "Of course." Claire looked down at the pages again as he walked away. She still did not know whether she could trust the man who had hurt her. But for the first time, Ryan was building something that would protect her choices even if she never rewarded him for changing. 4 months later, Ryan stood outside a closed door at Moonridge Sanctuary and waited. No guards announced him. No herald cleared the hallway. No one stepped aside because he was Alpha King. He had been there for nearly an hour, listening to footsteps move quietly beyond the door, and to Dr. Evelyn Reed's calm voice guiding Claire through the final stage of labor without ever describing more than he needed to know. When the room finally fell quiet, Ryan's hands tightened around each other. Then a newborn's cry rose from inside. The sound stopped him completely. For one suspended moment, the kingdom, the throne, the council, the moon feast, Vanessa, every mistake he had spent months trying to understand, all of it disappeared beneath that single small voice. The door opened a few inches. Evelyn looked out at him. "They are both well." Ryan closed his eyes. His breath left slowly. "Thank you." Evelyn studied him. "Claire is tired." "I know." "She decides who enters." Ryan nodded. Evelyn waited. He understood. So he looked toward the narrow opening and spoke softly. "Claire." There was a pause from inside. "Yes." "May I come in?" The silence that followed felt longer than any council vote he had ever faced. Then Claire answered. "You may." Ryan stepped inside. The room was warm and dim, morning light resting across the curtains. Claire sat propped against pillows with the baby wrapped securely in a pale blanket against her chest. She looked exhausted, but peaceful. Ryan stopped several feet away. His eyes moved to the child and immediately filled with something he could not hide. Claire noticed. "He has your serious face." Ryan gave a small, unsteady laugh. "That seems unfair to him." Claire almost smiled. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Ryan asked, "Is he healthy?" "Very." "And you?" "Tired." "Fine." He nodded. "Good." The word carried more relief than he intended. Ryan did not reach for the baby. He did not assume. Claire watched him understand that too. "Would you like to see him closer?" she asked. "Yes." Ryan stepped nearer. The baby shifted, one tiny hand escaping the blanket. Ryan stared at it as though he had never seen anything so important. "May I?" Claire looked at him for a long moment before carefully placing their son into his arms. Ryan held him with surprising gentleness. The powerful Alpha King who once believed control solved every problem now stood completely still because a 7-pound child trusted him without knowing his name. Claire watched something inside Ryan soften. "Hello," he whispered. "I am your father." Weeks later, Blackwood Hall looked different when Claire returned for the naming ceremony. The reforms had passed. The Luna office had independent staff. Medical access bypassed noble scheduling. Smaller pack maternity centers had received direct funding. The Luna chair no longer sat behind Ryan's position. It stood beside it. Equal height, equal distance from the council table. Claire noticed before anyone spoke. Ryan entered alone. "No Vanessa. No Faberth-Campagnen. No ambiguity." When the ceremony began, Claire carried their son while representatives from Moonridge and the smaller packs stood among the court families. Ryan waited until the naming blessing ended before looking at her. "May I hold him?" Claire nodded and placed the baby in his arms. No one applauded the gesture. It was too simple for that. Too personal. After the hall emptied, Ryan walked with Claire toward the eastern doors. "Will you come back to the palace?" he asked. Claire looked ahead. "Not to the life we had." Ryan nodded without hesitation. "Then we build another one." Claire turned toward him. "You cannot build it alone." "I know." And I am not promising you what it becomes. I know that too. She studied him for a moment, then looked at their son sleeping against his shoulder. Months earlier, Ryan had stood beneath the moon arch and acted first, believing explanations could come later. Now he waited for her pace. Claire stepped forward. Ryan matched it. Not ahead, not behind, beside her. She did not forgive everything that day. She did not need to. Some endings were not doors closing. Some were doors finally opening the right way.